Hey everybody, I'm Jane. Welcome to my very first floss tube. I've also discovered that there's a quilt tube, but I guess I'm gonna go with floss tube because I do a lot more than quilting. I do cross stitch, but I'm not working on anything right now. But anyway, welcome. I want to show you guys because I've been watching FlossTube and I realized what's really cool. It's everybody showing what they finished, what they're working on, their hauls, that kind of thing. So today I thought I would show you what I have finished, I think over the last 3 weeks, about that. And I don't know, and then also what I'm working on. And I've got a really long-term project that I'm going to show you. But the very first thing, and I will put a link to her tutorial in my description. You'll find it down there. But I made this pincushion out of hexagons. It is entirely hand sewn because I just couldn't do it on my machine. I could not get into all these little crazy nooks and crannies. But as you can see, I'm using it. I absolutely love it. It looks to me like a little spaceship, a little UFO. But I used, these are all vintage fabrics, a little vintage button, some vintage rickrack. But look at how cute this is. You open this up and it's got a little piece of wool felt for your needles and it closes up and then it's just a pincushion. And I have had these fabrics, I can't believe they're like vintage now, since I guess the early 90s. Isn't that funny? But it was a lot of fun to make, and I'm going to make some more. I wish I had made it a little bit bigger, but the good thing about it being small is that it's portable. But I wish I had made it a little bit bigger. So the next one I'm going to make bigger. So that's one thing I finished. Another thing I've been working on, because I love needle books, are needle books. So I just finished this one. And I'll show you the prototype, the first one I made, which has got a lot of stuff in it. But this is made out of a very rustic linen, a vintage or antique trim, definitely an antique ribbon section. I know you guys are probably collectors like me, but man, do I love all the antique stuff. On the inside, I used some vintage wool flannel. I think it's called wool flannel, but it's just a really nice soft wool, very finely woven. And here I have my little scissor holder. This page is made out of linen. I put a little pocket, and this is a piece of vintage upholstery. This is probably antique upholstery fabric. And then I just use a piece of that flannel, and it doesn't ravel. So that's why I think it's flannel. I don't know. I think that might be the word for it. Little piece of lace. Over here I just have a little square that I sewed up with a yo-yo to put pins, needles in. And this is just kind of a spread here of the flannel with a big pocket. And here I put a piece of the linen. So I brought the linen from the outside to the inside and stitched that down. I kind of unraveled the edges here and then did a chain stitch. It's perfect for these bigger needles. And over here I French knotted down some flannel, and then just another little piece that I stitched down. And I did make a pocket over here with another piece of that antique upholstery fabric. So there's that. And you just wrap it up with this ribbon like this. And there it is. It's very flexible. I didn't put cardboard in it. I wanted to keep it like that, but it's quite heavy. Now this one is a little bit lighter, not as many pages, but it's got a big old mother of pearl. That's got to be an antique button there, and I used antique lace. Isn't this beautiful? I sewed that down, and then you just open it up. Same thing with scissors, blanket stitch that down. There are my 2 pages on the inside, and then I love ticking. So this is a piece of antique ticking that I stitched down as a little pocket, and then you end it with a little baby antique mother of pearl button there. So there's that one. A fail. I love pincushions, and I designed this pincushion to be like a little house, but I just don't like it. I use it though, naturally. It stands up. I use it, but it's just not as neat and tidy. I did quilt the fabric before I stuffed it. I put some batting underneath it. Just, you know, I'm not going to be repeating this one, but I do use it, and it is cherry in the pink and green. So that's done. The other pincushions I've made, these are all vintage and antique fabric. Just little, I made 4 squares and then kind of boxed the sides and made these fun pincushions, and they all have the antique mother of pearl. This one has got, this is a mother of pearl button with a rhinestone in it, and I remember buying the dress, the gown that these buttons came off of. I was an art student in New York City. This was over 35 years ago. I started in 1981. But the dress kind of disintegrated. I would always wear it. It was this beautiful gown. And I just took the buttons off, and boy, am I glad I did. And I don't know this fabric. I found it in my stash. It's so much fun that I made pincushions. So I made all these pincushions, and then the last one is very, very different, right? With the polka dots and the floral. But so I made those. Next up, I'm obsessed with strawberries. Not just the ones you eat, but the ones that we use for pincushions or emery, right? The emery. And I do have emery fill to put into pincushions, but I didn't do it with these because they're white linen and I would have had to have lined them. But these are all, I've been using everything from my stash. I have really not bought anything. This is like the year of going through and actually using my scraps and all of that. But what I did is make the strawberry. I made yo-yos for the tops along with these little scrap flowers I made out of fabric. And some of that sari ribbon I put on the tops. This one, I actually made a little wool felt top and used some silk ribbon. And I just love them. I just think they're fun. I have these sequins and beads, little Japanese beads and these sequins. And I'm like, I've got to use them on something. I'm not going to throw them out. So how cute is this, right? So those are my prototypes for the ones that I'll be making. I designed and made a little bag for my, and you'll see them soon, my little Meredith dolls and my bunnies that I sewed up. But do you recognize this fabric? I'm getting a phone call, and it's, you know, it's spam. But it's from Ralph Lauren, and it was called Charlotte. He's not making it anymore. But I have a roll of it. I used to sew quilts and things for people, and I have big rolls of fabric, but one of them is this, and isn't it beautiful? It's very, very soft, really lovely, and it's called Charlotte by Ralph Lauren. I'm also going to be making some strawberries out of that. So I made a couple of bunnies, as I said. Here they are. One is with a rounder head, and I used little, again, I have jars. I have jars of mother of pearl buttons. And this fabric, this is another one that's not being made anymore that I have big rolls of. I used to make children's quilts, and this is by American Folk and Fabric, and it's called the French Fox, and there he is. But she also has antique lace trimming, this little peasant dress, and a bag right here. So that's one bunny. And here's the other bunny with a smaller head. And again, I've used my buttons. I want to get through all these things that I have that I'm just collecting. So there's a couple of things. And look at the little pantalettes, right? This fabric I have so much of because I loved it. Again, with that antique cotton lace, the perfect size for making dolls. And speaking of dolls, if you follow me, you know I have Meredith the cloth doll, and here she is. I was poking around on Pinterest, and I saw these lace, I don't know, caps that women used to wear, and then I saw pictures of people making them for dolls, and I'm like, I'm gonna do that because I have all this lace. So I made this little cap, and it was so easy. I used silk ribbon for the little ties on the corners, and you just take a piece of lace. Now this is an inch thick, you know, wide, yeah, and you gather it in the middle, make a circle, and then you just make this cap part of it, and look at how pretty that is, right? And then I'm like, I'm gonna make her a ruff, one of those lace collars, and there it is. Isn't that beautiful? And this lace is that cotton, I think it was used in, it's used in heirloom sewing for inserts and things, but boy, is it perfect for doll making. So it goes beautifully, and we'll put her cap back on with Meredith's whole look, right? So there's her little cap, her little lace cap, and her new lace ruff or collar. So that was finished. That was so much fun. And what I'm actually now working on, I told you guys about my, you know, I showed you my strawberries, and I kind of work in bursts, right? So I got a bunch of the Charlotte fabric, which I love, and I've got scraps of it everywhere. I haven't actually cut into the yardage yet. And then this one is this beautiful antique, you can see that glaze, glazed chintz. And I actually started a little strawberry in that glazed chintz, but isn't that pretty? So these are all the bodies for the strawberries and the little ones that I'm still working on. And I'm debating about the emery because I'm debating on how I should make sure that it doesn't come through. And I've used it years ago, and I'm sure I must have either used an interfacing or I lined the strawberries. And I think an interfacing would be easier. And I've got some cotton interfacing, so I'm going to have to run some tests. But I didn't want to take the time to do that. I just wanted to make my strawberries. And here's another one with a little rustic yo-yo on top. And the thicker the fabric, this is, I think it's Osnaburg, you know, the perkier the yo-yo becomes on the strawberry. Super cute. Then another thing I'm working on, and again, if you follow me, you know I love the swirling star, is I'm going to be making another doll quilt. And here's the finished one. This is all hand pieced, hand quilted. And I promise you I'm going to start another pattern. I'm going to pick up a different block to start hand piecing. But I've been working on, look at, I mean, they're just so cute. And I just love the little stars. So I've been making more, and I think I have more than enough to make another doll quilt. Here's a fabric. I went to Joann recently, and I haven't been probably in years. But I had to go in and say goodbye to Joann, because I did used to go and get elastics and things like that when I was, in a pinch, sewing something for my kids or whatever. And this is a fabric that I bought there years ago. And it's the first fabric that I bought that was turquoise and this orangey red. And I can't tell you how much I love this fabric. And I just have scraps left. I don't really have anything that I could make a big project out of. So I can squeeze it into these little swirling stars. But all these fabrics are at least 30 years old. So I've just been stitching these up, and I love, love, love scrap quilting, and these little blocks like this are just perfect for scraps. So there's that. There's another one in that fabric that I just love. So that is a work in progress. That will be done soon. Hopefully it will be done soon. We'll see. Another thing I'm working on is a petticoat for, here's some embroidery for Meredith. So I picoed the edge. This is an embroidery stitch to just create that pretty picoed edge. And then I decided I'm going to make a little field of flowers, right? So I just kind of have been stem stitching and then French knotting. So I'm going to just push through, finish this up. I'll finish all the French knots, stitch it up the back, put a ribbon through the waist, and call it a day. So Meredith can wear that for summer. It's perfect. Now here is another block that I have started, something new. And I've always wanted to do curved seams, and I've just been really nervous about it for whatever reason. I've never did it. So now I am. Now I'm making an apple core quilt. I'm hand piecing it for sure. I've seen people do it on their machines, and I figure, I have a little stiletto. I use an old awl for that. That I could kind of feed it through, but hand stitching it is a little safer now for me. So here's some of those blocks, and I really love this block. I think they're really pretty. These are all 1920s reproductions that themselves are now, vintage. But the more I sew, the better I get at it. Like, here you don't see any kind of weird threads. Here I had some issue with thread, and I'm not sure why it's puckering right there. I think I might have pulled the thread too tightly when I was stitching it. So I'm really enjoying this. It's been a lot of fun, and I really just want to make like a lap quilt, something small, unless I just get crazy and and make something much, much bigger. And then the last thing I'm going to show everybody today is a swirling star project, but it is a queen size quilt that I'm sewing. And I thought I had all the blocks made, and I've been sewing them all together. Remember this? I don't know if any of you out there are into reproduction, kind of Civil War or around that. This is from the Smithsonian collection, and I think it was called The Rising Sun. And boy, I wish I had bought just bolts of all that, because look at these colors. They're absolutely beautiful. This is from that line. This is, and there's some other ones in here, but absolutely love it. But I realized I was like, I don't know, 60 squares short for a queen size. And I'm hand piecing it. I'm going to be hand quilting it. So here all, you know, I've been sewing. Oops, I just pulled a needle. Here I am though, I've been sewing them together. I sew them 4 squares together, and then I sew those together, and that seems to be working for me. And then I kind of laid them all out and said, why does it look so small? It's, well, I don't have enough squares. So where did I just put them? Oh, here they are. I've been stitching up more swirling stars, my favorite, but in a much larger size than I showed you before. Here I have some of the Charlotte, really difficult to sew. These are upholstery weight cottons. This is an antique French print that I absolutely love. I love this kind of magenta and that yellow on this natural ground, but absolutely murder to get my needle through, even the finest needle. So I can imagine how the quilting is going to be. And I've just been sewing this up, and I'm a scrap quilter, right? Look at this. You know, this is definitely very kind of early 90s print, but it goes when you mix up all your scraps. For me, it does anyway. So I've been sewing, and there's that beautiful Smithsonian. Yeah, The Rising Sun. There it is. Here's another print from that. So I've been sewing these up, and I have piles of them all over the house. I just pick it up and start working on them. And I figure it's going to get done someday, right? I'm determined. So I'm going to lay those all out again this weekend and see if I have enough now for my queen size, sew everything together, pick out a backing, which I haven't done yet. I did buy a wool bat. I am going to be using a wool batting for 2 reasons. It's really warm, it's really beautiful and lightweight. But the second reason is wool is really easy to quilt through. So I want something that I'm not going to be struggling to get through when I'm quilting this. And let me tell you, I now know why there were quilting bees, because it's going to be a lot to get through. So that's it, you guys. The end of my very first floss tube or quilt tube. And I've been enjoying watching everybody talking about what they're working on and what they got at the store. I should do a haul of what I found in bags that I've had, you know, when I moved from New York to California and back. I've been just hauling all this stuff and adding to my haul. And I open it after not looking at it for, oh my God, you know, 10 years. And I'm like, it's like Christmas all over again, right? So that's it, you guys. Thanks for watching. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And I'll see you next time. And hopefully I'll have more stuff done. Bye. Take care.